Friends from the Road. You are now listening to the Friends from the Road podcast.
Gaining new friends along the journey. Sharing stories that inspire, encourage, and motivate.
Friends from the Road podcast. Now here's your host, Daniel Hurd.
Welcome back to another Friends from the Road episode. Today we are here in Bend, Oregon. It's a beautiful blue sky day. The wind is calm. You can hear the birds chirping in the background. It's really beautiful. Unfortunately, it's still early in the morning, and it's just getting started. It's getting hot. It's been hot the last week, and it's just getting hotter. This week's forecast is expecting over hundreds, and I'm leaving to get back on the road, so we'll see how we do with that. But today, I have a conversation with a great gentleman that has been hosting me for the last couple days, and really about an experience that I finally got to try, that I've been looking forward to doing. And this gentleman that I'm having a conversation with is a mountain man. He does pretty much any activity related to mountains, and he'll attest to that, and he'll tell you about that during this episode. But the excitement is the adventure that we had yesterday, and it was amazing. So without further ado, please welcome Nick Larson. Nick, thanks.
How's it going, Dan?
It's been great, man. I got to first say, the fact that we met was by chance.
Yeah.
A connection through a connection through a connection, actually.
Yeah.
And it just immediately, as soon as we kind of connected, you kind of checked out a little bit what I was doing. I felt like we already knew each other before we even met.
Took the words right out of my mouth, actually. When you came through, I mean, you have such a positive energy about you, man. And I knew that you and I would relate quite a bit. And your story definitely resonates with me, and I'm happy to help.
Well, I'm super thankful for the help, especially staying in your tiny home that you got here.
Yeah.
I ordered food last night while you were at work,
Yeah.
and everything else going on, and the guy dropped it off, and he's like, "This is the biggest tiny home I've ever seen."
It's like a medium home. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is. It's a nice little Humboldt, and
Cozy.
and it's for sale.
It's for sale. Yeah, it's 295 square feet. Juniper and cedar wood, all from Bend, Oregon. I lived in it for about 2 years. I lived in the Bachelor parking lot, and it's just been a dream of mine to just have my own space. Here in Bend, the median home value is like $550,000, and
It's going up.
it's going up more and more. You got the Californians, moving in. No offense, California or anything.
No, but they're moving out of everywhere.
Yeah.
They're just moving out of California.
Right, yeah, and they make so much money over there, and it's cheap compared to California prices. So
Absolutely.
and I just always had this dream of just living in the woods with my dog, and if the world kind of goes one way, I just kind of want to be doing my thing and
Go the other.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, so you brought up that you were living in the Bachelor parking lot.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people are like, what is he talking about? Bachelor parking lot.
Yeah.
What is Bachelor parking lot?
The Mount Bachelor parking lot. It's on U.S. forest land. I work there very, very part-time. So they're kind enough to let me kind of stay, with a little longer than anticipated.
Yep.
And kind of fulfill my dream of riding my bike and snowboarding every single day.
And being the mountain bum life.
Being the mountain bum life, while I was maintaining a job in town, working at the hospital, and that's how our connection came through, is a connection through the hospital. And
Yeah, actually, I've stayed with a lot of nurses and medical professionals this past 2 weeks here in Oregon. So,
sweet. People are just willing to help, and I'm willing to help. It's just in our nature, I think. So.
Yeah. Hey, guys, you may have heard the dog growling and making noise in the background. We're actually in the backyard right now. We're on the porch, kind of just sitting around the fireplace, and the dogs are upset. They want to be outside with us. They want us to play. So if you hear them in the background, that's why. We're actually preventing them from coming outside for a little while. But Nick, you brought up Mount Bachelor, and that's I'm excited about that because one, I got to go there with you. 2, I got to experience something that I've been wanting to experience especially in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's downhill mountain biking.
Yeah, yeah.
Last year, right before my accident, I did my first mountain biking trip. I went and did the whole enchilada in Moab. And, for anybody that's into cycling, the whole enchilada is like literally the whole, you got every single type of biking all in one thing. And to do that for my first event, for my first trail, is pretty impressive, I was told.
Yeah.
So the fact that I did it was pretty awesome, but it was the climbing part I'm never a fan of. I get it done, but it was the downhill. It was from like 11,000 feet down to the downtown of Moab. It was like 8,000 feet descent.
Yeah.
And it was just so much fun for me. Just not having to really pedal, just kind of going the downhill feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you're like, hey, let's do something today when you get here.
Yeah.
Let's go ski and hike and all these things. And I'm like, skiing? It's middle of June. It's almost July.
Yeah.
What do you mean skiing?
Yeah.
And after some thought, skiing would have been so much fun to try.
Yeah.
But with the little bit rougher snow, I know it's the end of year snow the late season. So that and my knees are still in progress. I didn't think that was too much of a option as much as I really wanted to do.
Yeah. Next time.
Yeah, next time for sure. But one of those options was going downhill biking.
Yeah.
And man, that was so much fun.
Dude, it was so much fun. I love sharing my passion with you. I've coached downhill mountain biking, and then I coach cross-country mountain biking as well, too, for here in Bend as well. And I just love sharing my passion with other people. I love seeing the stoke on your face, and, it resonates with, like, snowboarding to me. It feels like snowboarding. It's just a free flow going down the hill, and riding at Bachelor, it's a beast in its own. It's not like riding in Colorado where the dirt's a little different, or in Washington where the dirt's a little different. It's sandy, it's rocky, it's challenging.
It's not even just rocky. The lava rock is like
cheese
a
grater.
Shredder. Yeah,
yeah. It's and
I can tell you from personal experience that it does shred.
Yeah.
And even
easily.
Well, you brought up how excited I was, and even I crashed twice during the day. My last crash was definitely the worst of the two. I hit the jump, I landed, I kind of washed out, and I did like a 180.
Yeah, but you went for it, and you did it without fear, and you did it because you loved it, and you felt it, and it was just beautiful to see. You got back up.
It was immediately got back up. Was ready to immediately get right back on the lift to go back up, and you were like, hey, man.
Yeah,
you got a hole in your butt.
If you ain't crashing, you ain't trying, man.
Yeah, I love it. I really do, and I look forward to doing downhill mountain biking in general again. But dude, it was the experience, like just getting out there, and it's different. Some people that are true mountain bikers will be like, "Oh, that's not real mountain biking because you didn't climb it."
Yeah, right.
But man. I think I did like 7 or 8 laps, and none of it was really climbing.
Which
I
is
was
pretty
sore.
Impressive in itself. Yeah, it's downhill mountain biking. People think, you're just going downhill, but it's a full body workout. I mean, you're using your core, you're using your legs, you're using your arms. I mean, you're constantly pumping and pulling, pushing and pulling,
twisting and
everything. Everything, man. It really is. You see on the downhill mountain bike races, these guys are fit, and I think when Bachelor's fully open and the big runs are open, my max for the day is maybe 5 runs, and I usually go bell to bell in the wintertime snowboarding, so not trying to toot my own horn, but it's definitely a challenge there at Bachelor.
Yeah, even being as athletic as you are and staying as in shape, it's a challenge.
Definitely.
And even for me, I'm just getting back into my ride, and it's been a month now.
Yeah.
But I felt it.
Yeah, definitely.
I had to take a day off.
Totally. And my bike was stolen in government camp last week, and so I'm really still bumming on that. And
man,
I still have my downhill bike. I just sold my road bike, so this is kind of all I got now, and this is gonna be my new thing.
Hey, at least it's the right time of season,
right?
For the right bike,
right?
And hopefully by the end of the season, you'll be able to get something else to keep going.
And bikes are hard to come by these days, so
they really are. But You never know. It'll appear. The one you need will appear when you need it.
I hope so.
And I think that's. You brought up government camp. Where is government camp so people have an idea?
Government camp's at the base of Mount Hood.
Okay. Which is actually a really popular mountain for you.
Absolutely. It's a mountain that have an intimate relationship with. I've been going there since I was 14 to the summer snowboard camps, High Cascade. And it's always been a dream of mine to move to Oregon. Everyone wants to be doctors or lawyers or to have like some sort of big plan. It's like I just want to snowboard year round. That's it, and move to Oregon. And there's something special about Mount Hood that just changes you. There's an energy there that's unexplainable.
Yeah, it's a really powerful mountain, volcano, whatever you want to actually consider it. But it's a mountain of a volcano.
Technically, it's one of the vortex, the energy vortex of Thielsen, Shasta, and Crater Lake.
Okay.
Mount Mazama, I think the mountain would have been.
Where they have each one has a different kind of energy presented to it.
And there's mythical tales of the gods that were fighting and blew up volcanoes and things like that. But there's certainly an energy there that's unlike any other, and I'm proud to call it home, and even after it's almost taken my life.
Well, hey, I'm glad you brought that up. I really want to talk about that almost taking your life portion. But before we do, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about Mount Hood.
Perfect.
There has never been a better time to make a difference and save lives from suicide than now with LivingWorks Education. With over 2 million people trained to save lives from suicide in over 30 countries, estimates show that LivingWorks training has prevented over 300,000 suicide attempts. Rather than just training, LivingWorks provides a solution and roadmap that communities and organizations can follow to save lives. We all can get started somewhere, and that's why I suggest getting started at start.opatmovement.com. Let's make suicide safe for communities by bringing us closer to a world where living works for everyone. Can't afford it? OPAT Movement wants to help. Email opaatm@gmail.com. Subject line, start help. Living does work. Now, back to the episode. All right, Nick. So right before the break, we were you brought up that Mount Hood also, as much as you have love for it and it's a big part of your life, it almost also took part of your life.
It definitely did, yeah.
Would you be willing to share that?
Of course. And, that's where, when I heard your story, Dan, that it really resonated with me, and I knew that you and I had a lot in common. So I'm happy to share it. And the whole idea of sharing the story is to educate others in hopes that, when they go out to the backcountry, they're prepared. And, my mistakes, if just one person learns from what I did, then it was all worth it, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So this was a year ago. This was Memorial Day weekend. And also, real quick, too, you can find this. I did a podcast with Portland Mountain Rescue. You can find it on anywhere podcasts are around. It's called Rescue Radio, and it's called Memorial Day Rescue.
All right, and we'll definitely, for everybody that wants to check that out, we'll actually add the link to the description.
Totally, yeah, because I'm sure that one's more, it goes a little bit more in depth than what I will go into today, but I want to share the story of the Memorial Day Rescue. So it all started with me just climbing Mount Hood. We got about fresh 10, 12 inches of snow that day. Memorial Day weekend, and it was like perfect conditions at the time. Pretty windy, but pretty perfect. And I had this idea of just climbing to the Palmer lift, which is just the upper lift on Mount Hood. So it wasn't supposed to be a insane day by any means. It was supposed to be maybe a couple hours or so. I had my dog in the car, windows cracked, with water and food and everything like that. And, upon climbing up, I got that bluebird syndrome where I felt unstoppable. I've seen a lot of my buddies climb up to the top, and, Mount Hood is one of the tallest mountains in Oregon, and also the most accessible. which also leads to a lot of rescues and deaths because of that.
Yeah.
So I got up there, and I was getting close to the Hog's Back, which is about 3/4 up the mountain. Again, feeling great. Strong winds coming through. But in my eyes, like, everything looked great. I get up to, well, it's called the Pearly Gates, and the ice was kind of giving way. The snow just wasn't great. It's very, very steep. We're talking making a ladder with your ice axe and your whippet, and a whippet is a trekking pole with a blade on the end of it. I'm using my crampons on my snowboard boots, and I get up there, and the inversion rose to the top, thus causing a whiteout. Now, they were calling for a little bit of weather coming through in the evening hours, but it came in full force to the point where I could barely see my hand in front of my face.
Oh, wow. That must have been really. I probably at that point it probably wasn't like I got to figure it out, but I bet it was pretty.
Well, yeah, I still was confident that I'd get through it. I've been in days like this many times before. Snowboarding at Bachelor, there's a lot of terrible weather days, which for the locals it turns out to be the best days because they don't want to be in those type of conditions. But I call it ninja snowboarding, or survival snowboarding, where you kind of every turn is a little iffy.
Yeah.
That being said, so I couldn't see my hand in front of my face, and I had extreme vertigo. I was nauseous. I was dry heaving. I was this euphoria that I couldn't describe. And so I had my board on my feet. I went down to a place where I felt was safe to strap in, and I was just side slipping going down the face. And now there's crevasses. There's fume rolls, which is like a crevasse with like a sulfur field type of deal.
Okay.
Terrible smell. Definitely nauseating up there. It's still technically an active volcano, I want to say.
Yeah.
And I knew all these things were there. There were cliffs. I mean, there were drops. And so with my trekking pole, I was using it like a blindman's, what do you call it?
Like blind stick?
Blindman's stick. Just hoping that I wouldn't be, my next couple of feet weren't going to be my last, And next thing I knew, I felt the ground around me give way, and I got caught into a slide. When that happened, it sent me tomahawking down the mountain, ass over tea kettle. I lost some of my gear, but I hit my head a few times. I had my helmet with me, or I had my helmet on and everything, but I was so disorientated from the conditions that all my senses were gone. And so when I got up, I collected myself, tried to find some sort of points that I could recognize, and again, there was just zero visibility. Now, just to backtrack just a little bit, I had spread my father's ashes on Mount Hood. He had passed away about 3 years ago, and Mount Hood was the last family trip that we spent together.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had this false sense of security where I thought my old man was watching over me, that I've been coming here for so long, and that he would protect me, and
of course, and not shy away from that at all. But in reality, as you continue this story, in a way, he was with you.
He certainly was. I think he was kind of guiding me through this, and we'll talk about this more later. But this has changed my life in a positive light, at the end of the day. And even though that this was a hellish ordeal, I wouldn't trade it for anything, because it gives perspective and I can help others with it.
Absolutely. So you were continuing trying to get down the mountain.
Trying to get down, yeah.
You you had your cell phone with you. How did people start figuring out that you were?
Yeah, so this is about maybe 3 hours into the day at this point, and I had Strava running. And Strava in cold weather, and I don't normally do this either. where it was killing my phone battery, and I was running low on water and food and things like that. And at this point, after the slide and after the crash, I probably had 10-15% of my phone and had little water and food at this point because I wasn't anticipating summiting. And I guess I should backtrack there too, is this was only supposed to be, a jaunt up to the lift. This is not supposed to be a summit by any means. And the summit up at Hood, usually want to start at 3-4 in the morning. You want an early day, and I did not start that early.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to navigate down this mountain here, and like I said, I have little phone battery, and I didn't really have service at all. And at this point, I still didn't think that I was in true trouble, that I thought I was going to be fine. And the fall line kept carrying me to the north side of the mountain, and I didn't even know that it was doing it because I had no sense of direction at all. That being said, it was what I was told. I was 14 miles away from the Timberline Lodge, and
that's where you started.
That's where I started. Yeah,
Okay.
That's where Nitro and my dog was. That's the Timberline parking lot.
Wow, 14 miles.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, Mount Hood's it's a vast mountain on that side, and it's very big, and that's why I love climbing mountains, because it makes you feel small and it humbles you.
Absolutely.
So I think they call it Heather Canyon. I may have to backtrack. I can't remember the canyon's name that I found myself in.
If I remember correctly from the other episode,
Yeah.
You were pretty close to Zigzag Canyon.
Zigzag Canyon. Thank you. Yeah.
There you go.
See, I've hit my head a few times myself. I've broke my neck before in a mountain bike accident, and this is not my first time going through a traumatic ordeal by any means, but my memory is a little shot, especially early in the morning here.
Well, hey, and as we continue this, you brought up these traumatics. I'm actually going to name the episode "Overcoming Tragedy."
Yeah.
Tragedy. Can't say that word right now.
Yeah.
But that's I think that's that's why I felt so compelled to do this episode with you as well. Is, man, when I listened to that episode, I literally felt like I was you in that situation, and it really kind of also brought me back to my situation, which we've talked about. And man, it was I bawled. I bawled through like 3/4 of that episode, and it even was even more the fact that, and you're going to get into this, and I'm not going to get too much, but the desire to keep going because of your dog Nitro, and getting to see Nitro, he's sitting here right now, like just a couple days that I've been here. This dog is attached to you like no other, and. Even when you go to work, he sits at the door. I watched him yesterday. He's always concerned about you, and
likewise,
and likewise. So I feel like, I'm not gonna stop. Keep talking about like you were in Zigzag Canyon. Sorry.
Sure. No, it's so I had these drift snowshoes with me, and what these are, they're little 2.4 pound approach skis. I didn't have a split board yet at the time, but they were getting me through the really heavy snow. And right now the weather was sleeting, it was snowing, it was windy. I mean, it was whiteout, way steep conditions. And these little approach skis were kind of getting me through, and I knew the direction where to go. I just didn't know how far away I was. And so I kept getting over these ridges and these canyons, and I was like, okay, the lodge has got to be right over this canyon, right over the next one. And the third, fourth, fifth canyon, it was just a vast nothing out there. And being that alone out there, and now completely out of water, maybe like we got 3-4% on my phone at this point. I think maybe I had 2 protein bars left at this time. And
what's running through your mind at that point?
That this is happening to me right now, that you never think you're going to find yourself in a situation like this.
Did you think you were? Did you, up until that point, where you were like your phone's literally going to die? You're almost out of food. You're out of water. It sounds like. Did you think that you up to that point you thought you had
I
it?
thought I had this. I've climbed all the mountains in Central Oregon here solo. I was getting over a breakup at the time, and I just started doing this solo. And I'm coming from Wisconsin. I've been here for 3.5 years. The only way to get experience is by doing it. I've done my research. I've done the due diligence. I have the gear for this. I feel like I have the physical fitness for this. But then when you get to that point of desperation, then you start thinking, okay, if I don't call 911 right now, I don't know if I'm going to make it out of this. 'Cause I don't foresee myself getting out of this without help, because I don't know where I'm going. Maybe having a compass would have helped. There's a couple factors that could have helped before I even got into the situation. But I did find myself on this one ridge line where I had one bar. And it's like, well, maybe, and I come from an EMS background. I was a firefighter at EMT for 7 years. And like I said, you never think you're going to have to make this call until you do. And so I called 911 and I had my coordinates. And it was a really quick phone call because, like I said, my phone's dying. And just got to get the pertinent information out there. And being in that environment before, as a first responder, I know one of the main things you have to do is stay where you are when you call for help. Mm-hmm. And this is a place on the ridgeline I did not want to be on. It was very exposed. I had dug a shelter behind a big boulder that already kind of had like a little well dug behind it, so I kind of used that well and to dig about 2 feet down into this hole and to seek shelter from the wind and the snow and everything. And the plan was to start a fire for heat reflection off the rock wall and get warm from there. And I've been through wilderness first responder. I've been through survival classes before, but everything was encased in rime. And what rime is like this ice buildup on everything. I mean, it's just a moisture in the air where everything is just kind of this damp iciness.
Yeah, it sticks and just freezes over.
And I had toilet paper in there. I had a couple lighters in my backpack, and I had gathered some sticks and things like that. And I could not get this fire started to save my life, quite literally. And I would get like a little flame going, and then it would just die out. And I tried for hours and hours to get a flame going. I mean, to the point where my thumb was raw, and I couldn't even feel my hands at that point. It was so cold. I mean, this is a cold that I have never felt before from the inside out. I had gear with me that I thought was appropriate for the climb that I was doing, just a little John up there, but I didn't have the clothing appropriate to stay overnight.
Yeah.
I had two layers on me, and it certainly was not enough.
Well, especially as just being here for a few days in the area for a little over a week.
Yeah.
Day to night, it changes.
The high desert, yeah.
It could be a beautiful day, and then at night, you're dropping over 50 degrees at sometimes.
Right.
So I'm sure being up there, obviously it's a little colder because it's the elevation.
Right.
But I'm sure it drops a lot still.
Yeah, and this is, I think, about 6,000, 7,000 feet, I want to say, where I was at. Maybe a little bit. Maybe it was 8,000. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll see about that.
Yeah. Now, so how long did it take from the time you made that call to the first crew of responders to show up?
So I had called around 5-6 p.m. That I needed help. Now, I was staying in Gresham, which is a little town outside of government camp, with a friend, and I said, hey, if I'm not back by 4, something's up. And I was 5 or 6. So she actually called at 5 and said, hey, he hasn't returned. I'm not getting any return on a phone call or text messages or anything like that. And she was kind of following my story on Instagram and things like that, and saw the weather come in, and then I kind of went radio silent when that weather came in. So she just had this this feeling to call. And I guess a couple other friends who were watching this story felt the same way too. And so that kind of got things moving. And so when I called and the time that they got there, it was around, I want to say 3 or 4 a.m. or something like that. But after I made the phone call and when that sun went down, that's when I felt, I don't know if I'm going to make it out of this. I had messaged my mom saying my last goodbyes to her. You know, I used my last percent of my battery to tell her I loved her. And I sat there in that hole sobbing. I mean, thinking about my best friend. You know, my dog is, I mean, he's my everything, you know, and he was pivotal when I broke my neck. You know, he was my support dog, and he didn't know what was going on, you know, and I felt so terrible as a dog dad, you know, and that how could I be so stupid to let this happen? And I just sat there bawling, thinking about his warmth and just imagining that I was holding him to make it through, man. And then I don't know what happened, but the cold crept through and I passed out. And I don't remember the rescue per se. When they finally
got to you.
The first thing I remember was this woman's voice, and it was like, the way I describe it is like if Stephen Attenborough Attenborough was a woman, it was like that really just tender, loving, caring voice, you know. And
that was Paige, right?
That was Paige, yeah.
So yeah, guys, if you get an opportunity, the PMR episode is amazing. And like I said, we're gonna have it in the description, so you guys will be able to check it out. But you get to hear in that episode the rescuer and the rescuee point of view. So it really is such an empowering episode.
Yeah.
So you're going through this process. She's kind of cradling you. She's kind of keeping you warm and talking to you and comfortable.
Yeah, and she gave me this tea. It was this lemon tea, and I'm not a tea drinker by any means, but since this I have been. But it warmed me from the inside. Like, I felt it go down my body being that cold. They had a hard time finding a pulse on me when it happened, and this is from Paige's perspective, that when she came in, when her and her team came and got me, I was standing about 400 feet from the hole that I had dug. I had taken off half my clothes, and I was just kind of standing there in this middle of this snowstorm, and she stated that I was talking to somebody. You know, I was having a full-fledged conversation. You know, and then this is kind of where I like to think that it was my dad, you know. And she stated that I started yelling when I saw their lights. And I think my dad kind of maybe jump-started me to start yelling at them, you know.
Kind of woke you out because you were
bit.
passed out probably still at that point.
Yeah, or just kind of a zombie. They call it, there's a term for when you start taking your clothes off. But it's usually have about 30 minutes of life left.
Yeah, so you pretty much were at the end.
I was circling the drain. And what I remember from that time is the kind of the in-between. I didn't really talk about this too much in the episode, and it's kind of come with some time, but it's almost like being in a kaleidoscope of in between life and death. And it's something that I'll never forget. And very thankful for those volunteers on that team.
Those volunteers really did an amazing job. Again, that episode with Paige talking about it from her point of view and their point of view was just to see how much effort goes into planning it and preparing and getting out there. Because really, they had to do the same thing you did. They had to just kind of follow your maybe not the exact path, but
Right.
they had to get to you.
Because I thought they would just send a snowmobile over. It wouldn't be a big deal, you know. I guess they put the helicopter on standby, but it wasn't
It was
used.
too bad conditions.
Yeah, which I was thankful for, because you know helicopter bills are.
They're
Yeah,
expensive.
Dan knows that all too well. But that being said, they had taken a cat to the lift and pretty much had fallen or tracked my descent, my line there, and came and got me just in the nick of time, and those guys carried me 14 miles of safety, you know, through the worst conditions imaginable. You know, we're talking just making post holes in waist deep snow and thick, dense snow too at that, because it was raining too and then snowing at the time. And so I can only imagine what those guys went through, and I know toenails were lost, and you know, and again, they're volunteers. These guys are volunteers, and
That makes it, you know, it's amazing that when people, you know, they get paid to do that for a living, they
right.
love doing that stuff. That's what they do. But it's a whole different thing when they're just volunteering.
yeah,
And they're doing it because of the love of people and the love of helping.
yeah, helping the mountains, and a lot of people think it's selfish, you know, what we do, especially during the COVID thing. And, you know, I made the mistake of reading the news articles and the comments and everything online, and people are can be really cruel, and they can be armchair quarterbacks and not quite understand the situation, how quickly things can turn in the mountains. Obviously, it's never the goal to end up in the hospital after climbing, and especially during COVID when, you know, medical resources are being allocated, but they're very understanding of the situation. They're cut from the same cloth because they know that it could happen to them, and I would do the same thing for them if it was the roles were reversed.
You know, that's really, Nick, it's a powerful story, and I hope somebody listening really gets something out of it. But it's not just the event that happened. I can't say that word this morning.
Tragedy. Tragedy.
It was what you did after.
Yeah, and
so after you got done, after you went to the hospital, you got out. How long was it before you got back on a mountain? On a mountain, never mind.
I took 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I took 2 weeks. I didn't want to be afraid of the thing that I loved the most.
I can relate.
And I know you can relate to that, man. You got to get back on that saddle, you know?
Yeah, well, I can 100% relate, because even though I've been on the road again a month, and I'm actually going to be doing an update pretty soon about this so people can hear it.
Yeah.
But I am afraid of cars.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever not be afraid of cars, but I am pushing myself to not be.
And it's a healthy fear.
It is.
You should.
It's a fear that I wish I didn't have, obviously, but I can overcome it, and I think that's the power behind the event itself, and everything that you and I have gone through is we're not allowing it to stop us, and
not allowing it to define us per se. It's part of our story, but it doesn't define who we are. I think it makes us stronger. It gives wisdom, and if we can help someone else, I think that's where it comes full circle. I would never wish an event like that to happen to anybody, but to give the perspective to truly live after an event like that, to just experience life fully, is something that should never be taken for granted.
exactly. And with that, it's been over a year now. Something that I really want you to talk about, and it can be really brief, is what you do for your 1 year anniversary.
This is really special. I climbed Mount Hood, my redemption climb, with the people who saved my life.
Did you guys do it on Memorial Weekend?
It
or
was
in that area at least?
It was around that time. I think it was late April.
Okay.
But it was a month away.
You got to do it with the people that came to save your life.
Yeah, and I've been in contact with Pierce, and he was the lead rescuer that day. And he checked up on me about 2 weeks after the incident to check up on not only my physical health, but my mental health. My physical health, I couldn't feel my hands and feet for months after the incident. I'm a phlebotomist at the time. And so I need my feelers. I was doing phlebotomy without really being able to feel what I was doing. I was just kind of going on previous knowledge of doing it for so long. But mentally, I was struggling, and I couldn't relate to people, and it was really hard. But he had really talked me through it and got me through it, and I'm very, very thankful. So that being said, we kept in contact over this past year, and we set up this climb to get this redemption done, and the emotions were running high, and you couldn't wipe the smile off my face. I think I was teary-eyed almost the entire climb up, and it was just such a special thing to do it with these people, and to make it even more special, we get about 3/4 up the mountain, and I hear this familiar voice. Another guy who I've been in contact with since that Memorial Day rescue. The couple who saved Nitro's life, his name is Brad, his wife's name is Dina, but Brad was up there on Mount Hood the day I was climbing with Pierce and the team up Mount Hood. And so, to backtrack, I'm all over the board, I know. Brad had worked with the sheriffs to get Nitro out of the vehicle while I was being rescued. So they were camping that night at Mount Hood in a little RV, and they had noticed the windows cracked and this dog in there, and it's been, over 10 hours me being gone, and it was snowing very hard, and like, this guy's not coming back. It's kind of odd that this dog's in here and the windows are cracked and things like that. So they were kind of feeding him treats throughout the day, but once they saw the sheriffs come through and the rescue operation start, they realized something's wrong with this guy. Let's help this dog out, and they are dog owners too.
That's so cool.
And and I just, because that was my concern when I was in that hole, is that this is my best friend, this is my kid, man, and he took care of the thing that I love the most. And so once the sheriffs got into my car, they had popped the lock and everything, and I mentioned this in the podcast, and my dog Nitro, he had jumped right out and went straight to that climber's trail. He would have found me.
Yeah, it would have taken him some time, but
he would have got to me.
He would have got there.
But he knew that I was in trouble. But what Brad did, he looked after Nitro that night, not quite knowing what my outcome was going to be. And it just so happened that on that day, at that time, 3/4 way up on the Hog's Back at Mount Hood.
A year later.
Mount Hood's, there's a lot of things you could be doing, man. And to be sitting down at that time, he was right there. And
so you weren't just with the rescuers of yours. You were with the rescuers of the whole situation.
Yeah, by pure serendipity and chance. I have goosebumps talking
I have
about
goosebumps right now, and I wasn't even there because
Yeah.
I know I've experienced those. And,
Yeah.
And I tell people, I recently said it on a post, it's for as big as the world is, for having over 7 billion people in this earth.
Yeah.
The world feels pretty small at times.
Oh my God, yeah. And especially, on a mountain like that where there's a lot of places you can be, and I was overwhelmed with joy, summiting, and the feeling of completion and redemption, and to be able to stand on that mountain with the people that are the reason why I'm there. It just meant so much. It made it so much more special, and the universe lined it up.
Man, I think that's it's such an amazing story. And as we're wrapping up, I'm gonna throw this at you. And I know you've given a lot of advice to the listeners already, but of this whole event that happened, what is the biggest thing that you are wanting to share with the listeners directly? So this is your opportunity to say what you feel they can get out of this.
Well, always carry your 10 essentials with you. Assume that you're going to be spending the night anywhere you go. You know, you can be going for a small hike. It could be like a 6-mile hike. But, you know, let's say you fall and you break a femur, or you something catastrophic happens on a very simple day, and a very simple day turns into a complicated day, into a very cold night. You know, having an extra layer, an extra food, extra water, you know, some sort of way to start a fire. Carrying a birthday candle is.
I like that idea, actually.
Yeah, something I added to my pack.
Not even just a birthday candle.
Yeah, a trick candle.
A trick candle.
Yeah, so you know, having a Zippo lighter, you know, will help with that too. But they make matches that are designed to not go out with the wind and things like that. Yep. So there's certain things that you can add to your pack that should be in your day pack. It should be in your cycling backpack. It should be in your ski backpack. It should be everywhere, in your car even too. Mm-hmm. So just being prepared for anything, and like I said, always assume that you're going to be spending the night, and what do you think that you're going to need. Even just having a little bivy sack. These ultra runners you see climbing mountains and stuff, they carry next to nothing. But one thing they do carry is having a little bivy sack where it reflects the heat off of you.
Those little space blankets.
Little space blankets, absolutely. And that does...
That helps.
It does quite a bit. I'm sure you have experience with that as well.
Absolutely. You know, and the last thing I want to bring up, and I love that, and is something that you actually did. You probably didn't even think about it. And a lot of people forget to do this, is tell somebody where you're going.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Even if it's just a quick 6-miler that it was supposed to be. Mm-hmm. You know, hey, I won't be, if I'm not back by 4, something's wrong.
Absolutely. And I see you, you're on the phone, you're checking in with family and friends and things like that. And I think that's awesome. You know, they have that support system, and make sure that they know that you're safe. You know, I'm not like kidnapping you here in the house. And
well, and more so, leaving here, I'm going to be going through the national forests. There's a couple of them, I think.
And you might.
And I'm going to be in a no service area for probably a few days. I might get little spots here and there, but that's yesterday. That's what I was doing, was just kind of letting my team know. Mm-hmm. Hey, if you guys don't hear from me for a few days, this is why. If you don't hear from me for more than 5 days, then something's wrong.
Exactly. Right.
Because it's a little different than ours, but I have to do days.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, luckily nothing other than the accident, which this Garmin watch is amazing. It tells my mom when I get in an accident.
Yeah.
And she knew I was in the hospital before I did. So
right.
All right. With all that being said, Nick, you know, it's been an amazing opportunity to have this conversation with you. To have experiences with you, to do the biking, and I hope that you continue to live your passions and never let that stop you.
Absolutely, and likewise, you as well.
Thank you.
Cool.
Copyright OPAT Movement 2021.